Ann Porter-Jones, and these are the latest stories from the Radio Jamaica News Center. Voting has started in some U.S. states in an election in which polls have indicated that Democrat presidential hopeful Joe Biden has a narrow lead over President Donald Trump. Both men made a frenetic last push yesterday, with Mr. Biden focusing his efforts on Pennsylvania and Ohio, while Mr. Trump held 5 rallies across North Carolina, Michigan, and Wisconsin. According to a University of Florida tally, more than 95 million Americans have cast their votes early. Debbie Ann Wright reports.
Trump in 6 states the president aims to defend today in his bid for a second term. The survey released yesterday finds the former vice president holding at least a slim edge in all of Arizona, Florida, Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. They are all states which President Trump won in 2016. However, it's still a race within striking distance for the president in most of these electoral college prizes. The survey taken in the final stretch before Election Day also finds Democrats hold an edge in 3 pivotal Senate races in Arizona, Michigan, and North Carolina. Meanwhile, the CBS News Battleground Tracker on Sunday found that Mr. Biden holds an electoral college lead heading into Election Day, with Mr. Trump needing a surge of in-person voters to win. A CNN national poll shows Mr. Biden leads Mr. Trump 54% to 42%. On his campaign stop in North Carolina, President Trump dismissed the polls, but he underscored that it was an important election.
It's going to be the most important election, in my opinion, in the history of our country. I never thought I was going to say it. If you would have told me I was going to say that 4 years ago, I would have said, you're crazy. But it's the most important because I've always said, we will never be a socialist nation.
President Donald Trump. In Pennsylvania, Mr. Biden urged Americans to draw a line under the chaos of the last 4 years.
It's time to unite this country. Make sure everyone you know does the same. It's time to rebuild the backbone of this country, the middle class, and this time bring everybody along. Everybody.
Presidential hopeful Joe Biden. The last stretch of campaigning yesterday came as a federal judge in Texas rejected an effort by the Republicans to invalidate roughly 127,000 ballots in Texas's most populous county. On Sunday, President Trump indicated he would take legal action to stop the tabulation of ballots arriving after Election Day. Communities are bracing for protest regardless of the election's outcome, and if demonstrations turn violent and overwhelm local police, governors will almost certainly call out their state's National Guard. Some are already on alert for violence. Debbie Ann Wright reporting for Radio Jamaica News.
Thank you, Debbie Ann. And Radio Jamaica's Kathy Barrett, who is in Florida, one of the battleground states that will decide who wins the White House, reports that there has been strong turnout of Jamaican American voters.
In the state of Florida, the voting bloc is significant, especially in South Florida, where according to the Migration Policy Institute, 41% of the nation's 4.4 million Caribbean immigrants live in Florida, with Miami-Dade County having the highest number. Throughout the vibrant Jamaican American community, the Democratic Party, being led by presidential hopeful Joe Biden, has made significant inroads. And if the campaign's outreach to this community is successful, it's widely believed that this could help turn the state into an electoral victory for Biden and his running mate, Kamala Harris. According to the chair of political science at the University of Florida, Daniel Smith, ahead of today's poll, 70% of Jamaican Americans who are registered voters have already cast their ballots. Of the total number of those registered to vote, 75% are Democrats, 5% are Republicans, and 20% have no party affiliation. Reporting for Radio Jamaica News, I'm Kathy Barrett.
Thank you, Kathy. Days before the start of the pilot phase of face-to-face classes, the principal of one of the schools selected to reopen says he was not contacted prior to the decision being made by the Ministry of Education. Principal of Yallis High School, Mark Malava, told Radio Jamaica News he became aware of the decision via the media. Yalis High is one of more than a dozen schools selected for the 2-week pilot program. Mr. Malava believes there was not enough planning by the Ministry of Education prior to selecting the schools.
It's very untidy. We should have been engaged a long time ago. We should have been having regular meetings. We need to understand what are the modalities that we will be utilizing, because you're talking about a pilot. So if you're going to roll out a pilot, and the purpose of a pilot is to gather information and data as to what is the most effective approach to the reopening of schools in a global pandemic, then it has to be approached in a very systematic way. You have to plan it to the T. You have to engage parents, you have to engage students, you have to engage your teachers, you have to engage stakeholders right across the board.
Mr. Malava is disappointed with the lack of communication from the ministry.
We are talking about people's lives here. We are talking about people's livelihood on the part of teachers as well. So it is something that ought not to be taken lightly. It is something that I ought not to be seeing for the first time in the media. We need to have been sitting a long time ago and having discussions and putting the plans in place. And how are we going to collect the data? How are we going to interpret the data? Because it might have to be a model that will have to be rolled out island-wide.
Principal of Yalis High School, Mark Malavo. The schools were selected for face-to-face classes after being classified as low risk following a COVID-19 assessment. The Missionaries of the Poor Secretariat is reporting that it has begun to receive COVID-19 test results from its other homes, and they have been mostly negative. Representative of Missionaries of the Poor Secretariat, Brother Rosh, says the results are from 4 homes operated by the charity organization. This follows the Health Ministry's report that the Faith Center, run by Missionaries of the Poor, had 74 positive cases last week.
Yes, some of the results came back. They are looking very good. Lord's Place, Bethlehem, most of them are negative, with some pending. I know we have 1 case at Bethlehem, a child positive. That's what we have. But the rest, we are still waiting. But with the other residents at Bethlehem and Lord's Place, most of them are negative. And that's also with the workers or the staff members.
Representative of the Missionaries of the Poor Secretariat, Brother Rosh, speaking yesterday on Beyond the Headlines. And Brother Rosh gave an update on the situation at Faith Center, where the 74 COVID-19 cases were identified.
So yesterday we have a meeting with the group of the Ministry of Health, and they have given us some measures wherein we need to put in place. So we have put in place brothers and workers to stay, because one of the measure is no one in and no one out. That's what we are trying to do right now. So we have 8 brothers there in the facility who will be doing quarantine with them. So right now the brothers have separated those residents who are positive and the negative in different sections.
Representative of Missionaries of the Poor Secretariat, Brother Rosh. Meanwhile, Brother Rosh acknowledged that the COVID-19 pandemic has affected charities on a whole, including Missionaries of the Poor, because of a fall-off in donations. However, he remains optimistic.
We are also affected, but still people are so kind. I mean, these people. I will see Jamaica here. People has really helped us and given us what they can, and we really appreciate it very much. In the midst of all this, the downfall of the economy, still people are willing to help. And that's the mark, I think, of Jamaicans, the generosity, which we are always grateful as Missionaries of the Poor.
Representative of Missionaries of the Poor Secretariat, Brother Rosh. The authorities in China are reporting that 2 persons who arrived from Jamaica were among 6 new imported coronavirus cases in Shanghai, which is the country's biggest city. The Shanghai Health Commission provided a report yesterday. One of the patients is a Jamaican who arrived at Shanghai Airport on October 31. The other patient is a Chinese citizen living in Jamaica who arrived at the airport the same day. All the new cases have been transferred to hospital for treatment. Close contacts on the plane have been put under quarantine and observation at designated places. The flash flood watch for low-lying and flood-prone areas of all parishes has been extended until 5 o'clock this afternoon. The Meteorological Service says persons should take precautionary measures and be ready for quick action if flooding is observed or a warning is issued. Although the center of Hurricane Eta has moved further southwest of Jamaica, the Meteorological Service says its extreme outer bands will continue to generate unstable weather conditions across the island for the next few days. The Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation is conducting research in Bull Bay, St. Andrew to determine which sections should be declared no-build zones. This follows last month's incident in which a man and his daughter were killed when a landslide swept their house down a slope in Shooters Hill. Mayor of Kingston, Delroy Williams, says a team from the Municipal Corporation has been in the community in recent days. Mr. Williams says in the future, development will only be allowed in areas deemed suitable. The Jamaica Institution of Engineers has called for urgent action to prevent a recurrence of the Shooters Hill tragedy. It also suggested that safety checks be carried out on other houses in the area. And those are the stories from the Radio Jamaica News Desk at this time. We head to the streets courtesy of our friends. ICWI, serving you is all they do. Hello, Michael.
Yes, trying to navigate my way out of some potholes here on Cassia Park Road. Really getting serious out here. Penwood Road, pools of water. Bay Farm Road, an easier commute today. Bay Farm Road, as I told you about connecting the dots, is on the ballot in New York. Yes, how did that happen? A Jamaican lady who lived at 79 Bay Farm Road is a candidate for a seat on the New York Supreme Court as a judge. She's a former student of the Halfway Tree Primary and the Queens High School. Guess her name? She's Carol Sharp. Waltham Park Road, easygoing, both directions. Several piles of garbage are strewn all over the street. MPM, where art thou? Cassia Park Road, as I just told you, riddled with potholes, but you should take it easy, and once you make it out, you'll find that there's really nothing else but potholes to worry about at this time of the morning. And that's how it is from our eyes on the streets.
Thank you, Michael.
With a warm, comforting taste of honey, rum, and lime. Benjamin's Honey Time, your source of vitamin C. Benjamin's, a trusted name for over a century.
The time by Benjamin's Honey Time is
16 minutes after 7, time for the financial report.
We're working on a brighter day, you don't have to fret. You know your family secure, you don't need no stress. It's like you run a 5K, set the pace, win the race, celebrate, and you still never bust no sweat. See we brother and we
Are boarding up windows as they brace for unrest following today's presidential election. The preparations come just a few months after many businesses were hit by looters in the violent demonstrations that erupted after the death of George Floyd at the hands of the police. Retailers Saks Fifth Avenue, Nordstrom, and pharmacy chain CVS were among the biggest firms taking precautions. Concerns the election will be contested have also weighed on financial markets. More in this report from NBC affiliate 13 WTHR.
Around downtown Indianapolis Monday, crews were boarding up windows at several buildings ahead of Tuesday's election and outcome.
Many people are passionate about the presidential race this year.
Could that level of passion lead to extremes? Building owners appear to be playing it safe by